I'm Dr. Karen Tran Harding. Welcome to LA Health and Me, where we introduce you to inspiring healthcare professionals living and working in Southern California and hopefully provide you a little bit of helpful medical information along the way. Now remember, if you are seeking your own medical advice, please seek guidance from your own healthcare professional, such as a dietitian. So today we have a wonderful guest with us. Her name is Kristen Espinoza. She is a wonderful, wonderful dietitian working and living in Southern California and doing wonderful things for her community. So why don't we start with Kristen telling us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, Karen. Thank you so much for having me. So thank you, everybody. My name is Kristen Espinoza. I'm a registered dietitian. I have over 7 years of experience. And since I got to LA, I've worked at different clinical hospitals, such as Cedars-Sinai, Marina Del Rey, UCLA Santa Monica, and also at Children's Hospital Los Angeles. And currently I have moved to my own private practice, Roseberry Nutrition, and I do virtual nutrition counseling and consulting.
Great. And what inspired you to become a dietitian?
Yeah, so it goes back to when I was in my undergrad in college. I remember studying different things. I was in media arts and design school, which I still absolutely do and love, but I felt like there was a piece of me that was missing in my career that I wanted, and that was to help other people, to have that one-on-one and do what I can to give back to my community and to people that need it. At the same time, I was also going through my own health struggles, and I found nutrition as the answer to a lot of it. And that combo of situations made nutrition and becoming a dietitian the pathway for me. So that was kind of how it all came together.
And what is the difference between a dietitian and a nutritionist?
Yeah, such a great question. I get this a lot, and I totally understand the confusion, especially in California with everyone being so health conscious, which is great. So a registered dietitian is the medically accredited version of a nutritionist, basically. So we have to go complete a accredited program, which is a degree. And actually in 2 years to become a dietitian, it will be a requirement to have your master's degree, which I do have. Oh, I forgot to mention that earlier. I have a master's degree in nutrition. So yes, a degree in the program. Then there is a required 1,200-hour internship, which is very rigorous and throws you into the deep end in clinical dietetics and all the different areas we practice as dietitians. There's a national exam that we take, and then we have continuing education hours. And dietitians also work in medical nutrition therapy. We do tube feeding, IV nutrition, which is parenteral nutrition. We work with specific health conditions, with pediatrics in the NICU. So we have a lot of hats that we wear. And then on the other side of things, nutritionists, there's no regulation for that title. So you could have a small degree of education or a large degree, but there's no governing body for that. So you could technically take a Saturday morning class and call yourself a nutritionist. So it's just not a regulated term. There are great nutritionists out there, but that's kind of the difference between a registered dietitian and a nutritionist.
And like you were saying, Kristen, health culture is very big here in Southern California where we live. What are the challenges of your job?
Yeah, lots of challenges for sure. One of them, kind of on that note, is because nutrition is such a big thing, it's becoming such a big thing. There can be a lot of misinformation out there. So a lot of our job is kind of is decoding that and explaining to our patients, clients, and the public the differences between what is misinformation and what is scientifically accurate. But then on that note too, the other challenge is that the science and research with nutrition is often changing. I know you all might remember there's been big things in the news about whether coffee's good or bad for you, whether eggs are good or bad for you, and that research is constantly changing, and a lot of it's because our genetics are different. So kind of navigating that is definitely one of the challenges, but it's worth it, and it's definitely a rewarding job.
And kind of like what you were mentioning, kind of things with good foods versus bad foods. Are there really good or bad foods, or is moderation really the key?
I love that you said that. Yes, yes. Moderation is 100% the key. And actually, one of the components of nutrition that I really, really believe in is called intuitive nutrition, which is mindful eating, mindful nutrition. So it's basically kind of throwing away that premise that there are good foods and bad foods. We have this idea of diet culture, right, which is really very much based on restriction and don't eat this, you can't eat this. But what we found in research has shown that there's this paradox of when you tell yourself this is a bad food or I shouldn't eat this, it makes you want that food even more, which can make you prone to overeating or binging on that food or that type of food. There have been studies that have shown restrictive diets will actually cause you to end up gaining more weight in the long term because none of these restrictive diets are sustainable.
And speaking of diets, talking about that, Kristen, my own friends and colleagues, a lot of them have actually gone through, pretty popular diets and lifestyles more recently, right? So one of them is actually intermittent fasting. What are your thoughts on that?
Intermittent fasting is definitely an interesting one, and there is some promising research that it can be beneficial. My hesitation with it, and because I'm also in everything I'm saying, a lot of these diets don't take into account different medical conditions that people might have, which sometimes does require strict monitoring of certain foods that could cause harm or increase the disease progression. So with intermittent fasting and other kind of fad diets, there are bits and pieces that I would say definitely take from. And if it's something that you want to do and feel that it can improve your life, go for it. The problem being is that with these, if it's an extreme for you, if it's a drastic lifestyle change and something you feel that you can't maintain, that might be worse for you in the long run, causing you to swing in the other direction. Kind of like what I was saying with the good foods and bad foods, when you end up restricting yourself and you feel like, I can't maintain this, that's when you run that risk of causing more harm in the long run because you aren't able to maintain, and then you enter into a binge cycle or an overeating cycle because that was so restrictive for you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. And kind of going on the other end of people who are trying to exercise a lot and not really kind of cut back their calories or kind of bring back their, diet a little bit. Is it true that you can't really outrun your diet?
Oh, that's a really good question. So yes, that is true. That's one way of doing it, but not the way that I would suggest or recommend. With life and with health, you always want that balance. So just looking at it in one way, I'm going to exercise off everything I eat, I feel like is a bad way of looking at it. In a sense, we want to have a healthy relationship with food, and all food can have a place in your life within reason. And of course, if there aren't medical conditions that you're taking care of. So I think it's that balance of both. It's finding exercise and movement that works for you, something that makes you happy and is sustainable, that you can continue for a while, along with supplementing a balanced diet. Again, something that you feel that you enjoy and you enjoy making and preparing and eating. So it's something that you can really have as a lifestyle change, not just a temporary fix, if that makes sense.
Yes, that totally makes sense. And I think you're completely right with the whole lifestyle change, right? Rather than, like you were saying, kind of going on a restrictive diet, it's so hard to maintain, right? So sometimes maybe that's why you might see patients and clients maybe not keep off the weight. And another popular diet that I was mentioning that a lot of my friends also, were very into as well was the keto diet. What are your thoughts on the keto diet?
The keto diet has gained so much popularity. We've kind of become protein obsessed, I feel like, which isn't a terrible thing to have protein as a part of your diet and to pay more attention to protein sources. There's a lot of benefits to keeping an eye on that and making sure you are getting your daily needs of protein. The keto diet specifically, one of the main reasons why it kind of became a thing as a treatment, as you know, for different seizure disorders. So just as a little bit of background for how keto came about, but as far as having it be your main diet, that's definitely a personal thing. If you feel that you can maintain it and there aren't any other health restrictions preventing you from doing it, then I think it can be a great thing. On the other side of that, I think that along with intermittent fasting, there are bits and pieces to take from it that are supportive of a more balanced lifestyle. So, for example, making sure your plate always has a bit of protein on it. Making sure that when you are having a carbohydrate that you have a protein and healthy fat to go along with it. And I think that are some good takeaways from it.
That's really good advice to kind of keep that plate pretty varied. And I know something that a lot of families try to incorporate more of is vegetables, right? Are there good ways or suggestions that you have to kind of incorporate more vegetables into a diet?
Yeah, definitely. This is one of my favorite things to talk about because vegetables are so incredible and they provide so much for us, including antioxidants, phytochemicals, which are very powerful cancer-fighting ingredients, fiber, and just vitamins, minerals, so much good nutrition. So absolutely should be a part of everybody's day, everybody's meal. And like I was saying before about the way a plate should look, so the goal should be to have half of your plate be vegetables, a quarter of the plate be protein or even a little bit over a quarter of that, and another quarter be your starch or carbohydrate. On that journey with vegetables, some ideas to incorporate them into your life and your family's life is, first of all, think about some recipes or things that you and your family already enjoy, and think about ways that a vegetable could fit into that. So some examples could be like an omelet and sauteing some spinach and bell peppers and throwing that in the omelet instead of it just being bacon and cheese. Some other ideas could be thinking of like a fun casserole that has vegetables in it. And just kind of get creative with it. Think of ways that you can incorporate it, and also don't think of vegetables as just having to be that, just steamed broccoli. There are so many amazing recipes out there, so don't give up. Keep looking for recipes that you and your family might like. And also, another little cap onto that is don't be afraid of topping that vegetable with whatever you feel like can help make it more palatable. I know that it can be a big transition for people, especially kids. So don't be afraid to sprinkle some cheese on top, or a vinaigrette or a dressing that you like. Don't worry about having it be the healthiest, the picture of health, because just getting those vegetables in is the most important thing. So however you can do it, go for it.
That's awesome advice, Kristen, because I actually have a 10-month-old son right now. We're starting him on like steamed veggies and stuff. But, as he's getting older, I have friends with, toddlers and stuff. I hear how hard it can be to get vegetables in the diet. So I really love your advice of saying, top it with cheese, make it palatable, just to get those veggies in as much as you can. So that's excellent, excellent advice that I will be taking personally. And speaking of, vegetables, I bet you have a lot of vegan and vegetarian clients. How do they kind of get more protein in their diet? Because I know that can sometimes be a little bit of a problem.
Yeah. Oh, that is such a good question. I get that one a lot too. Also, really quickly, when you were mentioning your 10-month-old and toddlers and kids, just want to throw this in there. With kids, to help get them their vegetables in, also making it an activity and making it fun. So, for example, getting little fun cookie cutters and cutting like a fun shape out of bell peppers or different vegetables. Making it about the colors and creating even art projects that you can eat with it, making it a fun activity that they can be a part of. So they're excited about it, and it's just kind of a normal fun part of the day rather than, having it be, you have to eat your vegetables, because kids really will push away from that. So just wanted to add that on as well, if that's helpful.
That's super helpful. Definitely. Yeah. And then thoughts on how that vegans and vegetarians can maybe get just a little bit more protein in their diets?
Yeah. So for vegans and vegetarians who do eat dairy and eggs, those two things are a great way to get more protein, in addition to things like Greek yogurt, and then adding in the vegan, or the vegan community. That's when looking for things like nuts and seeds, legumes, beans, soy, tofu, um, tempeh, seitan, seitan, um, pea protein. And the great thing about pea protein is you can get that in a powder and add to different smoothies or beverages throughout the day. Let's see. I'm trying to think if I got all the big ones. I think those are all the heavy hitters for vegan protein options. My favorites are nuts and tofu, though. I think those are my top two personally.
Great. And then we were wondering about beverage calories. A lot of people kind of go out and maybe, go to social events, things like that. They kind of consume, beer, wine, adult beverages, maybe juice, things like that. How can people kind of keep aware of the calories they're consuming as liquid calories? And how could they maybe cut back on that and maybe be a little bit healthier when they go out?
Yeah, it's a great question. With beverages, I think a lot of times we kind of operate on autopilot and forget that those do have an impact on our daily nutrition. So I would say kind of take note of what it is you are drinking. I know a lot of focus is on food, but I would say take note of what you are drinking in a day or a week. Kind of zoom out and take a look and see if there are healthier options. I hate when I say healthier because there are places for everything, but say you think that you're struggling with drinking too much soda in a day. That could be one of the easiest things to work on because it is a lot of sugar, and oftentimes it's so much more than you can even get in food. So your daily sugar carbohydrate intake can really be off balance quickly. So I would say find out what that thing is that you would like to work on and see if there are other alternatives. There's a lot of great, all different kinds of flavored seltzers and soda waters nowadays, and ones that don't taste bad. They taste really good. So I would say do that. Find ways where you can just replace that beverage with water. Or even a flavored water. One of my favorite things to do is just flavor your water with different fruits, maybe cucumbers, lime, watermelon, just making water more delicious in a way that you appreciate. can really help when you're trying to restrict a certain beverage. And with alcohol, beer and wine, one thing you can do is alternate. When you're at the bar, when you're out with friends, get one glass of wine and then get a cup of water and drink that. And then, if you want another, fine, that's fine. But kind of having that balance, and also talking with your doctor about what is, what they also recommend as well, if that's something that you're concerned about.
And I know you were mentioning excessive sugar. And so personally, as healthcare professionals, Kristen, we try to practice what we preach when we talk to our clients and patients and things like that. But I have to admit personally, I have always, always loved sugar. I have a huge sweet tooth ever since I was a child, and it's even persisted to this day. So how much sugar is too much sugar? And do you have any advice on to how to cut back on sugar?
Yep, that I totally understand that, and sugar is one of those things that it really does taste good. So I would say to, first of all, not put so much pressure on yourself. I think that's one of the big things, because we're such an anti-sugar society. I think that puts that stigma on sugar. So we do fall into traps where we're like, oh, I shouldn't. And then when we have access to it, we're like, it's been a bad day. That's when we finally have that ice cream and we gravitate towards binging or having a lot of it. So I think the key with that is to not deprive yourself, but also be mindful of the portion. So if you're feeling that craving, go ahead and have some, but see if you can minimize the portion size to something that you feel is manageable and not something that would make you feel bad afterwards, because that feel bad afterwards does throw you into that cycle of wanting it again and wanting more. And to answer the question, how much sugar is too much sugar, that is a hard one, because when it comes to sugar, I'll use the term carbohydrates. It's very personal to each person, to your energy needs, to your body size, to the activity level that you have. So when it comes to carbohydrates, kind of like I said with that plate, if it's a fourth of your plate, that's a good amount for each meal. And then if it's something like dessert, if that's what you're kind of leaning towards, that, that sugar, added sugar, there's nothing wrong with, a small portion of sweets at the end of the day, after your dinner. The key is moderation and balance, so you're not finding yourself overdoing it.
Great, moderation and balance. And what are your thoughts on sugar alternatives?
I think sugar alternatives can be absolutely great, especially for those in the diabetes community, which kind of goes back to the last question about sugar amounts being highly specific and individualized, because those with diabetes do need to really watch their sugar and carbohydrate intake. So sugar alternatives are such a great solution, and they're coming out with so many. When they first came out, the taste was a little bit, it wasn't the absolute best, but it was still a great alternative. Now they're coming out with a lot of options, including natural sugar alternative options, which I think are fantastic. And some of my favorites are monk fruit. I've had a lot of clients and patients try monk fruit as the sugar alternative and have really, really loved it. That's been a lot of my clients' number one as far as taste goes. But there's also stevia. There are different versions of stevia out there. So I'd say take a look and see if there's one that you like the best. And there's also erythritol is another natural sweetener that I would gravitate towards those. But it can definitely be a fantastic tool to keep your sugar intake down, especially for those that need to watch their sugar intake due to medical conditions like diabetes.
And I'd love to get your last thoughts on one more topic because, again, we're in Southern California, which is a desert, and, we do go drought, so you think about it sometimes. How much water should a person be drinking in a day?
Yeah. Oh, a really good question. It is a little bit different as well based on body size and your energy needs. One thing that one tool that I use to determine a really specific amount is if you know your range of calories that you need in a day, to do 1 milliliter of water per calorie that you need in a day. So say you're on a 2,000 calorie diet, that would be 2,000 milliliters of water. But that's kind of the medical technical way we go about it. But I would say for an average person, anywhere between 8 to 12 glasses of water a day would be good. For men who have a bigger body size and muscle mass, air towards the 12. And for those with smaller muscle mass, smaller body size, I would say to try and strive towards the 10 glasses a day if you can, but that 8 to 10 is fine. The key is just that you're doing it.
Thank you so much, Kristen. Unfortunately, we're running short on time. And to our audience, thank you so much for joining us today on LA Health and Me. I'm Dr. Karen Tran Harding.